everybody, it's Devin from Eskopade here with the first of hopefully many creator spotlights. Today I'll be talking with Josh Helmer, the creator of the upcoming webcomic Infinity Pirates. If you're not familiar, be sure to check the comic out on Instagram at Infinity Pirates, and I'll be posting some links and stuff so you can see for yourself. It's shaping up to be super great, and Josh is an awesome guy, so show him some love. I was able to get a lot of great insights into his comic, so if you've got the time to sit through my subpar interviewing skills, you'll hear him talk about world building and the creative process and social media managing and just a bunch of other great things. Super awesome guy to talk to. So thanks for checking us out, and here we go. Hey, Josh.
Hi, Devin.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, good. How's it going with you?
Pretty good. A little tired, but all right. I'm all right.
What time is it? I want to know for sure what time it is. See whether my math was wrong.
It is 10:45.
My math was right. Way.
Hey.
I'm very good at math. Way.
I woke up and I was like, shit, it's daylight savings. Like, is it daylight savings over there? Am I gonna have to? And so I was like trying to work it out. I was like Googling. I'm like, when is daylight savings in the UK? So cool. Glad thanks for talking to me, man. I really appreciate that.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for being interested.
Oh, of course. So, also congratulations on your recent 10,000 followers on Instagram. That's pretty dope.
Oh yeah, that was good. I was at Tom's when it happened.
Yeah.
He has a studio room in his house, and he has his workspace in the left hand corner, and then he has his PlayStation 4 and his Xbox. So I say studio room. It's basically where he goes to draw cartoons and play games.
Right.
So it's like a little boy's bedroom, basically. But he has this awesome big chair, and I was sat in the big chair whilst he was working away on a promo piece that he's doing for 10K, and I saw it ticking for like 9995, 9996, and then it jumps to 9999, and then I sat there refreshing it constantly for like 15 minutes. And I was like, oh my god, no one's gonna follow us. And then it dropped down to 9998.
Oh no!
Like, no, we're never gonna make it. And then, but then eventually it ticked over. And we're pretty happy about it. We're pretty excited that so many people are following and are interested in what is essentially only four. We're only 4 pages in.
Oh yeah.
I think it's I don't know what it is, but I think people are interested in what it might become, and that's quite nice.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the coolest things, at least for me, like following you guys on Instagram and stuff, is just seeing like from the ground up. Because I think like I was like following you guys like a while ago, and so I remember when it was just like concept art of like Chuck, and I was like, oh, he's a cute little character, that looks cool. And then like seeing like every now and again, just like, oh, here's a page sketch, here's like the finished inking. So it was cool seeing like that whole process.
Yeah, to be honest, the reason that there's so much concept art and sketches is that Tom really likes to take his time.
Yeah.
and so I don't want to just like leave people with. I don't want to like set up this big account and start posting things and then just be like, oh, sorry, I've got nothing because Tom's been lazy this week, or I've got nothing because we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah. So about Infinity Pirates. So how long is the idea of the comic been like kicking around before you're finally like, let's do it?
Tom and I have known each other about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Tom and I have known each other about 5 years because we work at the same place, because we both have normal people jobs outside of the comic. So we met there, and I learned that he was an artist, and we were kind of vaguely friends.
Mm-hmm. And
then at the end of last year, no, not the end of last year, at the end of 2015, it must have been, end of 2015, he and I were chatting. And I said I want to write a comic, and he said like, he was asking kind of what I was interested in, and I said I just came up with an idea that wouldn't it be cool if and you've not seen this yet because you won't see it until Tom draws pages 5 and 6, but the main like vessel that they use as in the Infinity Pirates are going to use is a spaceship. It's an old galleon stolen from like the seas of Earth in like the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said to Tom, wouldn't it be cool if there was a spaceship that was just a pirate ship? And we kind of toyed around with the idea, and we kind of chatted about it, and then he came up with a drawing and just kind of drew a sketch one day, and then from that from the idea of there being a pirate ship in space, I was like, well, why the fuck would there be a pirate ship in space? and then I kind of came up with like there being this crew, and then why would there be? How can I make it more real and more important to me as a story to tell? And I thought about adding a human seeing this perspective of kind of an entirely alien culture, but that's still going to have an awful lot of parallels to our culture and our world that we live in. And I thought I really enjoy I like a lot of space saga kind of things. So I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I like Star Trek as well. First page is actually the last line of Next Generation. And,
cool.
But I also read, I assume you know Saga the comic. Have you read
I
that?
know. I actually haven't read it though because I'm bad.
It's excellent. It's one of my absolute favorites.
That's what people tell me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. It was mentioned on Big Bang Theory is over here as well, obviously, because it's like the biggest show in the world other than Game of Thrones. And there was a day when they mentioned that, and I was like, I knew about that so long ago. That makes me like Lord of the Nerds. I was like, yeah, King Nerd. I know about the things they're talking about on telly. But yeah, so I really like a lot of I'm really interested in that kind of sci-fi comic-y kind of world, and I like the way that it's so easy to draw parallels and make cultures that represent parts of human society that you want to talk about. And so that's kind of where it all came from. There's going to be quite a diverse cast of different races, and we're going to talk. It talks a lot about kind of political stuff, without being overtly political. So yeah, it kind of came about a year and a bit ago, kind of gestated in kind of like this kind of just chatting about it kind of phase when me and Tom would talk about stuff, and I'd maybe write a few little bits and bobs, and then about middle of last year over the space of a couple of months, I just wrote the whole first arc. So whilst Tom is drawing pages 4 and 5 and 6 over the next week or two, I've already written 200 pages of comic. So so I'm way ahead of it, and I've written like this 30,000 word Bible document for him as well. So it's really, but he keeps wanting more backstory. So I've been working on it for a long time, and he reads a lot of it, and he's trying to catch up, but he never will. But we'll see what happens.
Why can't he just draw fast enough? I'm on page 200, you're on page 5. What the hell?
Exactly. I was like, sure, it takes me like 5 minutes to write a page. Why does it take any longer to draw a page? I don't know.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
So, in terms of like world building, like obviously like with 200 pages in the whole Bible document, you've built like such a vast world. How do you really even get started on that? Like, does the whole thing just stem from like one idea and then just kind of like branches off from there? So
I have a really, really overactive imagination. Like this world that I've made for Infinity Pirates is isn't the only kind of universe that I'm working on that I've built. So in Infinity Pirates, I'm working on quite a fun, escapist kind of wacky sci-fi style comic. I'm also writing a novel, which is an entirely different universe, which is slightly sci-fi fantasy-ish, but very different to this. It's a lot more gritty, a lot darker. I've written some short stories that are all based in. I've written some short films, which I'm making with some colleagues as well, with some friends of mine, which are like, which again, it's not a universe, but it's like there's a little world, there's a little story there between these main characters, and there's going to be lots of branching short films that we're making. It's just a case of it often starts from one idea, from one really simple idea. So in fact, tonight I'm going to a short film festival with a close friend of mine, and I was he made a 1.5 minute film that I'm one of the actors in. I say actors. I didn't have any words, and all I had to do was run and pretend to steal a bag from a girl. But on that day, I met these two girls who I'm now really good friends with, Indy and Eve, and they Eve, her brother goes to a private school. But she went to like a rich kid school, and she went to a normal state school. Whereas Indy, she goes to a private school, and like my little sister, she also goes to a private school as well. So it was really interesting. We were chatting and we were joking a lot about how the differences come about. And from that day of me and Indian Eve just chatting about the differences between private school and state school, I went home that night and I wrote the first of the short films in about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Because it came from the idea of the differences between those two worlds and the levels of privilege that you have involved.
Yeah.
And it could be, so for the short films and something like that, but for the comic, it came more from the idea of really being conscious of wanting to do something that enabled me to comment on something politically whilst also being fun. So everybody knows how the X-Men is a parable for racism, and X-Men is essentially all about prejudice.
Yes, definitely.
It was in the early days anyway. Yeah. Whilst it can be without the real experience of kind of living in a world where I see that on a day-to-day basis. I'd never want to suppose to write something political that I don't have any true experience about.
Yeah.
So to avoid being glib, to avoid being the kind of person who just starts putting out ideas, thinking that I have like this right to talk about topics, I don't really want to do that. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to be able to talk about things in a safer environment, i.e. in a world that I create that represents some aspects of society that I think are a bit need to be talked about more, or need to be talked, or I'd like to talk about it at least. So the idea of Infinity Pirates essentially stemmed from the conversation about a spaceship, which was also a pirate ship, coupled with the idea that it's easier to represent diversity if everyone is alien. So if everything is completely alien, everything is new, everything is fresh, you don't have any understanding of the politics of or the tragedies or the history of things that happen between different races and societies and nationalities, it becomes a lot easier to talk about because there's no stigma attached to those kinds of things. So I can make stuff that I want it to represent different elements, and no one can ever be like, well, that's wrong.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in like 30 years, like the fanboys can be like, hey, that's wrong because on page 2 of issue 14, you said this thing about this race, and I was like, oh no, a wizard did it. I don't know, but so yeah, it kind of it stemmed a lot from that. It stemmed this world of there's like some religious elements to it as well. There's a lot of political elements to it as well, and I take there's areas where I just wanted to take a swipe at institutions or organisations that I didn't think in our world were necessarily working in an optimum way. So there's I like in the real world, I really appreciate the concept of the UN, for example.
Yeah.
Like all of these countries coming together to discuss their problems and try and diplomatically sort stuff out without killing each other. However, in practice, as we see with North Korea right now, you see like they're literally launching long-range missiles into the sea towards Japan.
Right.
And no one can really do anything because even though it's against all of the laws and against everything everyone said, they're just like, we're North Korea, fuck it.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna do? I mean, you're not actually gonna do anything.
Yeah.
And so because of that, because of the kind of futility of that kind of thing, there's an organisation in Infinity Pirates called the Planetary Alliance, which is essentially just like it's a parable for the UN and the lack of follow through on the promise of such a potentially important organisation. And it kind of it split off into all of these different things because I was just like, let's add another thing to have a go at. Let's add another thing to be angry about. It's kind of what happened.
So I remember you guys show a lot of like concept art of the White Union.
Yeah.
And there was somebody had a comment and they're like, if this is supposed to be the KKK, then it's stupid. And like you like went in on.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I do worry. I worry about the like I don't want to hurt. Like I would never want to hurt anyone at all, and that includes for just offending people on an ideological basis. I'd never want to hurt someone. And that person who said that, whilst they annoyed me.
Yeah. Evidently.
Yeah. Well, they annoyed me a little bit, but because it was such a reductive view to take. It was a case of It was it literally. I mean, they literally said, if this is this, then it is stupid. Great. By whose standards? Are you the king of stupid? Do you decide? Are you the judge of stupid? I don't know, but yeah, the white union is a mix of there are elements about it that are hints of prejudice, but it's more of a comment on Catholicism and more of a comment on the Catholic Church. I have family members who are Catholic. I appreciate people who are Catholic on the basis that every single person that I've met is a Catholic. Generally tends to be very kind-hearted, very sweet, very accommodating. But on an institutional level, I first came up with the idea of the White Union around the same time that I watched Spotlight. Have you seen Spotlight?
I haven't.
It won the Oscar last year for best film.
Okay.
And it was the real life investigation into paedophilia in the Catholic Church. And I came out of that film so angry. Like, I remember being in the cinema and coming out of it and being like, oh God, I hate the Catholic Church. I think I just went to one of my friends. I went to one of his houses. I was like, oh, I'm never talking to a Christian again. I was like, you can't talk. It took me a couple of days. I was like, no, shut up. Don't be a moron. There's like, on an institutional basis, you see and read and hear about these awful things, and if somebody's going to compare it and make such a brushstroke statement about it being if it's stupid if it's this one thing, I suppose whilst I'm scared of people turning off and people hating it because of the inherently political elements of the way that I kind of write stuff, it's just my own gripes about life. I don't want to ever be one of those people who substitutes their values and the things that they believe in for the sake of money, success, people's interest, people's affections. I'd rather it's a difficult thing to do because I have this craving to be liked. I work with as my day job that I still have at the moment. I work as a trainer. I teach people how to do their jobs at work. So I teach them to do their jobs better, or teach them new skills and that kind of stuff. So I've had a lot of chances to learn about human behaviour and human motivation. So I understand a lot about myself and a lot about what I want, and it kind of really helps kind of guide the way I behave. And I really do. I have this underlying desperation just to make sure that everyone is my friend. But when you get people online who are like thinking that I can't make a comment on the KKK, if it's not the KKK, it's not about that. But even if it were, I have every right to do that.
Of course, yeah.
That guy kind of annoyed me, but
well, I remember seeing that.
I think
if this is the KKK, then it's stupid. Well, what does that really mean? Like,
I know.
Is he not supposed to draw parallels to the KKK? Are you a sympathizer? I don't understand.
I know. I don't think he ever replied. I think I wrote like that essay comment as a reply to him, and I don't think I ever got another reply back. I think I assume I answered all of his queries effectively.
Yeah. I think you did. You did quite a good job.
Yeah, we'll just hope that he's not angry.
So like, well, what's one way? Like, I know there's like so many like indie comics on Instagram and Twitter. So how do you find a way to kind of like break through that barrier and like really get your work out there? Well,
I've read a lot about how to manage social media. I also have a friend who even wrote a book. It's called How to Make a Living by Working for Free. He works as a freelance social media manager. He's a stand-up comic, and for the rest of the time to pay the bills, he does social media freelance work. And he wrote this book, and I read his book, and it tells you a lot about how to build an audience and how to kind of find a community of people that are interested in what you do. And one of the things that we're really lucky with is that ever since day one, when we posted things online, we use a lot of hashtags because it's important, because that's how a lot of people search through Instagram for images. Ever since day one, we always tend to trend on some of those hashtags. Sometimes we'll trend on maybe just 2 or 3, which have something about 7, 10, 15,000 posts. But sometimes we'll post a picture and it trends on something like on a bigger hashtag, like the graphic novel hashtag, has like 400,000 posts or something like that.
Yeah, huge.
And if you're on the top 9 on that, you're going to get followers, because people are going to look at that, they're going to like it, they're going to see it, and they're going to start following you as a result.
Yeah.
So hashtags and using them in an appropriate way is one way that we've kind of built it. Also, kind of, I think that the fact that I'm not scared of being sarcastic, I'm not scared of writing stupid comments. That if people look at a picture and they see the comment, they're more willing to read it. I think they're more willing to follow because they realise that there's a human behind it.
Yeah.
I'm really envious of like stylish Instagram accounts or any sort of stylish social media profile where people can just be like Jeff 22 and that's all they say, and then like they have Jeff has like all of these amazing like arty photos, and like he doesn't even need to write a caption because there's such good pictures. I'm like, oh man, I wish I could be Jeff who's 22. But the thing about Jeff who's 22 and has all of these stylish things, it doesn't write anything below his captions.
Yeah.
Is that outside of his already captive audience, his people who already follow him, no one else is going to see that on Instagram because you can't. It's really difficult to repost things and get credit for that.
True.
You can use repost apps or whatever, but you don't get that same thing as you do with Twitter, where people can retweet something and then it still looks like it's your post but just on a different timeline. It's not like that.
Yeah.
You really need to take advantage of one, making sure you've got a personality that people can engage with, and two, using the hashtags to kind of be as a method of finding a way outside of your already captive audience, I suppose. That's sure. How we've done it. And I think it really is the hashtags thing that dominates a lot of it.
Yeah, cool. So like right now you guys are starting off, so it's a lot of process and like here's finally page 1 and things like that. So as time goes on, like when you get deeper into the stories, it's still going to be a lot of content focused on upcoming pages or issues, or is it just going to be like kind of standalone content, like, oh, here's a special Instagram, post?
Okay, so with Tom and I were just discussing this the other day, actually.
Oh.
We both follow Andrew McLean, who's a comic artist who writes
Headlopper.
Yeah,
I met him at Comic-Con. He's awesome.
Is he? Oh, you met him?
Yeah.
Oh, man, I love Headlopper. I've not read all of it yet. I've only read some of it. I read the bits that I saw at Tom's house, and I really want to get it.
Oh, it's great. You should definitely check it.
I'm currently reading a really thick book by Mobius called Adina. And once I'm done with that, and I'm moving house soon, and once I've moved house, when I can say to myself, yes, it's a good idea to spend this money on a comic, because right now I can't say that without then the caveat being, well, I can't afford to hire a moving van, but I'm still going to enjoy this comic. So when I get past that, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get Headlopper. I'm going to read that because it looks excellent. Yeah. But we both follow Andrew McLean, and the way Andrew McLean does it is he posts mostly preview images.
Yep.
Now the thing with Andrew McLean and the way he works is he has a traditional publishing method. He publishes things in a solid format and they're sold through image.
Yep.
We're not going to follow that publishing method. We're going to do it first of all through Patreon, and we're going to do it online. And then it's likely that we're going to give it away for free after a delayed time period. That's our plan. We're going to go probably a month, maybe 2 months. So anyone who signs up to Patreon will get any page that Tom makes, which would be once a week, whilst we're both still working full time. If we get enough money, our first goal is to make it so that Tom can work part time, so we can do faster updates. But the first step would be people who are signed up to Patreon, they get the pages as they come out. And then after that, we put it online for free, because if we've already got the funding for it, which we have through Patreon, we're not going to really make an awful lot more money. You're more likely to make a sustainable income by giving away a product for free and asking people to support you than you are by selling it to a small audience who may or may not buy it. That comes from the book of my friend, the one that I mentioned earlier, Simon Kane's book. What did I say? How to Make a Living by Working for Free.
Nice plug.
And yeah. Well, he's my friend. But his book is great, and it tells you a lot about how to build an audience that is going to stick with you and engage with you. So that means that the content that we're going to put online is likely to be not just preview stuff. When we put a whole page on Instagram, to me it's really exciting because it's a page and it's there and it's final. But it doesn't look great anyway. It doesn't look very good on Instagram. What looks great on Instagram is individual panels.
Right.
So what you'll probably find is there'll be a lot of individual panels, a lot of finished panels, a lot of finished character art, that kind of stuff is where we're going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not just going to do the comic as the only thing that we put out for Infinity Pirates. So because Tom, it takes a lot longer for Tom to draw a page than it does for me to write anything.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna bolster everything we do with a series of short stories. So for every month on the Patreon, the first level will be the basic entry, which will just be a comic, and the comic updates every month, and that'll be $1 a month, I think. And then $2 a month, we'll probably get access to my short stories as well. So every month, I'm going to publish a short story that links in with the actual story itself. So I've written the backstories they're in 500-word chunks. So Chuck's is only 300 words because Chuck's going to be the main character, and you're going to learn most about him through the actual comic itself.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other characters who they've got backstories that are like 5,000-6,000 words, so they're like 7 or 8 parts, maybe longer.
Okay.
And they're going to be given away as part of the Patreon as well to encourage people to kind of get more involved in and learn more about kind of the world that we're building as we go along. A lot of that was Tom's idea. Tom really wants he wants more of an understanding of who these characters are, where they've come from, what their motivations are, and that kind of stuff. And so the backstories is helping me work out a lot more about the characters that I haven't yet written a lot about. So
the more you write, the easier it becomes because you're fleshing out the world as you go, right?
Yeah. And I was worried to start with that I'd actually end up tripping over things and that I'd make stuff that would kind of tie me down there in the future. But actually, it's not like that at all.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really helps. And so I might see if I can find a way to publish some of those bits as well on the social media, so people have an awareness of that stuff as well. We're thinking we're also going to do a monthly vidcast as well. So we'll do a once a month YouTube kind of video, which will include like Q&As, a Q&A session for anyone who has questions for us, and we'll take one big question a month. And then we're also going to do this thing where Tom has an incredibly, he has a really big comic collection, like a lot of graphic novels. And my graphic novel collection, whilst it still takes up a fairly big space on my shelves, it's mainly focused around mainstream publishers like Image, it's mostly Image comics and stuff like that. So where I'm very story focused, Tom is very art focused, and what we're going to do is we're going to recommend comics to each other, and we'll each have to come back and review it each month for this vidcast.
Oh, cool.
So that will probably also, bits from that will also go on the social media as well, I reckon, because why not?
It sounds like you have everything like so planned out. How do you, you work a full-time job and you're writing all these, short films and then, doing Infinity Pirates and all these backstories and even managing your successful Instagram, social media, things like that. How do you find the time and motivation to do all that?
The motivation I have, the motivation is quite easy to find for me because whilst my job that I do at the moment I like, it's a really social job. It's meeting new people all the time and training them, and sometimes it's great and sometimes it's horrible, but it gives me a lot of flexibility and freedom, and it's really, really good for me on a personal level. Whilst I like it, at no point in my life, in my childhood, did I grow up thinking, because I work for an energy company, so a gas and electricity company. At no point in my childhood did I grow up thinking, one day I'm really hoping that I work for one of the large energy suppliers in the UK. That's my dream.
Every boy's dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as a young boy, I hope to have a desk of my own, multinational corporation. It was never something, it's not something that I dreamed or am super passionate about. What I love and have always loved doing is creating things.
Yeah.
Mostly stories, because that's where my skill set lies. I'm really good at making stuff up, and I read a lot, and so it's just always been something I've been really interested in. So the motivation is just fairly simply, I know that's what I want to do with my life. I know that what I'd love to do is, even if I still have to work my full-time job in 30 years' time, as long as I've spent my life creating things and I feel satisfied with them and a few other people enjoy them, then that's going to make me happy. That's going to make me more happy than most other things could. In terms of time, I compartmentalize most of it. So social media, I'll do 3 or 4 times a day, and I'll never spend more than about 10-15 minutes on it at a time. So I probably spend at most, even on a busy day, I'll spend an hour on social media maximum, and it's spread out. So I'll do 10 minutes in the morning whilst I'm eating my breakfast, 10 minutes at lunchtime at work, and then maybe 2 or 3 times in the evening. Writing is what I I tend to do that as a hobby. So I'll probably do maybe an hour a day.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do too much of that because I also have a life to live as well, and I don't want to. I exercise a lot as well where I can, so I try to fit in running and things. And it essentially means that what I've had to do as a result of wanting to do all of this stuff is just become better at having discipline about my own time. So I know that I can sit and watch Netflix most of the day. Like if you give me the chance, if I've got nothing on, that's what I'll do.
Yeah.
But I don't feel satisfied at the end of that day. And so what I have to do is when the temptation comes around to sit and watch Netflix or to play on my PlayStation, I have to think, am I going to be happy with myself at the end of the day if I know that I haven't done anything productive? It doesn't take a lot of productivity to make me feel satisfied. So if I do some writing, I'm fine. If I do some reading of a book or something, I'm fine. If I do some time coming up with like I made a business plan for when we start branching out into merchandise in the future, and I can work on that, and as long as I've done something like that, I'll feel fine. But if I've not done anything productive in a day, I feel bad about it. So it makes it easier to manage my time because it's what I know that at the end of the day I want to feel good about the way that I'm living my life, and I just don't want to feel like I'm wasting my time. So like with you and your blog, your writing, by the way, I'm a big NBA fan. I've got BT Sport, which over here is like it's like the second biggest sports TV provider, and they have the rights to a lot. I think it's all of the ABC games.
Okay.
All of the games that are on ABC, and so we get a lot of it's all on at like midnight, which is really annoying.
Oh yeah.
But I get a lot of highlights and stuff, and I watch a lot. And your writing on NBA, by the way, is your like you did the thing about the what was it, the unsung heroes?
That was my buddy. My buddy Rob did that one.
That one was good.
He spent a lot of time on that. He'll be glad to hear that.
You did another piece as well. There was another.
I wrote about Buddy Hield getting traded to the Kings.
Yeah. I read all about that one. I read all about that one as well. And it's really good. And your writing's great, and I love your stuff. But this interview's about me, so let's talk about me. Don't distract me by making me admire you.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
When you do that, you do that writing, and you write your blog because that's what you feel like you want to do. That's the passion that you have. And so it just so happens that mine turned out to be creating comics, creating short films, creating novels and stuff. And you'll probably agree that there are days when you feel like you can't be bothered.
More often than not.
And for me, it's just about knowing that when I go to bed, it's the same with anything like exercise or eating healthy as well, or like I'm trying to learn Spanish as well, which only takes like 5 minutes a day. But I've only done it like twice. But I know that if I go to bed at the end of the day, having done the thing, even if I didn't feel like doing it at the time, I know that I'll go to bed feeling better about myself, feeling happier, that I'm not wasting my time. And that's kind of how I manage. That's how I manage my time and my motivation, is that I know what will make me happy. Yeah. And like when you write your blogs and you see kind of people reading it and stuff, you know the feeling like when you create something and other people like it. Yeah. That's like the best feeling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I imagine that's like someone once compared writing stories to having children, and then it's like having your children and watching them go to school. But then someone else said it's not so much about them going to school; it's more like having children and then letting them grow up and go off into the world. Because once you're if the child is still at school, they're still there, and you can still teach them things, and you can still change them. But that's not what stories are like. Stories, once they're done, and blog articles that you write as well. Yeah. Once they're done, they're done, and they are free into the world, and there's not a lot you can do to change that. Yeah. So it's kind of that anticipation that you know that you want to make sure that when you let your baby go off into the world, that it's not just going to be torn to shreds by a pack of wolves. People thinking it's white supremacists, they can.
I haven't been accused of white supremacy yet in my blog, so hopefully it stays that way. Well, it's funny because like during my full-time job, I'm an art director at an ad agency, and so like all day I'll do like have to be creative stuff, or I'll like design coupons, which is really like soul-rending boredom, and so but like at the end of the day, it's like I'll be like, I did enough creative shit today, I don't gotta write. but then there's then there's the times where like, oh, I really need to write because I did so many goddamn coupons today. But like exactly what you're saying, you know, like the anticipation of like your baby going out into the world, and just like my blog is like super small, but like when I set it, you know, do an article, put it on Twitter, Instagram, whatever. And then I'll like after it, like I'll usually do it like before I go to bed, and then I like can't go to bed. I'm like, ooh, now I got 7 viewers on my site. Oh, it's like, ooh, I got 12. Ooh, you know. It's probably just my parents trying to make me feel good. It's like, everybody open up Devin's blog.
Do you know, my mum the other day. My mum, she started following me on Instagram, following the account on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
I don't have many followers on Facebook at all. I find Facebook really difficult to. Twitter is all right. But I find that quite a challenge. But Facebook, we've got like 8 followers, and one of them is like my mum. But she's been she started following us recently, and she immediately started like reposting the things that we put on Facebook, and she's like #ProudMum. And it's like,
oh, that's nice. So going back to Infinity Pirates, talking about like Chuck there. So is a lot of like the parallels you'll draw to the real world, like issues and things like that you were saying. Are we going to see a lot of that in some challenges that Chuck might face, or is it going to be like in the world in general, like kind of subtle nods, like, oh, there's your nod to the Catholic Church?
There are going to be directly political things that go on as part of the architecture of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So have you seen on the account the photos where Chuck's got that little fella?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those are goobers. They're called gubbins. They're goobers, and they're essentially they're like little helpers that live on the ship.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, Chuck comes to realise that they're not just helpers. They are owned by the ship owners. And there is an entire industry of ownership and trading and breeding of these animals, of these creatures that they are intelligent creatures. They would kind of they would have lived a much more kind of nature friendly, happy life before some of the evil races came in.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the evil kind of some of the really nasty races in the story come in.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still they're treated like cattle, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
They're sold and kind of chucked over the edges of boats and stuff and sacrificed quite easily and they're not even given real names. They're just called 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then when one dies, they replace one with a different one. So that rears its head in the second issue. So that'll be quite early on in the story. That kind of thing comes up, and I've literally written a piece where Chuck tries to explain how offensive it is the way that they treat him. They treat these animals, but also there's a point later on where there's another character that's going to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
There's another human that's going to be involved in the story later on, and who doesn't see why Chuck is so offended by how badly they treat these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck kind of has to try and explain to them and try to get them to see their point of view, to see the parallels between what's going on there and between the history of slavery in the human race as well, and I mean, including kind of elements of the stories of modern slavery that we still hear as well, but more and more of over the past few years. And they're going to be direct parts of the story. There'll also be stuff about the expansion of religion and the expansion of the influence of religion as part of the story. And yeah, there'll be things that Chuck goes through that are overtly political,
mm-hmm.
but are kept very much within this kind of fantasy alien environment. So whilst the themes are familiar, hopefully there's no chance of me doing anything stupid and offensive. That's my hope.
So drawing like parallels in your own universe as you were describing it, you know, is an easier way to make comments. But like, how do you kind of decide like, okay, well, you know, we got these goobers and they represent, you know, this. So how do you like kind of decide and assign this species is going to be like that? And like, what's the process there?
Do you know what it was? They come from concepts rather than from specific. It comes from the concept of, do I want to represent something about modern slavery and how that is how that's rearing its ugly head again in the kind of the slave trade, and it was the concept of that, and how I could do that was kind of came first.
Yeah.
And then separately, the idea separately, and this piece is really contrived and really is just playing to what I wanted to do. But I separately created the idea of the goobers as these little the gubbins as these little helpers because they're going to be cute and they're going to be fun, and they're a little bit inspired by I suppose by Minions in Despicable Me, because I wanted something like that. I wanted something that was a bit more. There was comic relief. They're going to be little fun things in there.
Yeah.
Some stuff.
Something that's easily marketable and kids will never want to put them down
honestly,
again.
Yeah. I know Tom's a good artist, and I wanted to give him a chance to do something that might lend itself to both the story and also to giving him the reign to do something that might be interesting and might be marketable on a commercial basis.
Yeah.
Story came first. Them as a position as a helper in there came along as well. And then I decided, well, if we're going to have helpers, we might as well make them cute and small, because cute and small is awesome. And so and then the separate issue of kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about was the issues of modern slavery and kind of human trafficking and that kind of stuff, and which goes on a lot in we hear some stuff about it in the media over here, because there's it's unfortunately there is more of it happening with you hear stuff about Eastern European people and refugees kind of being caught up in the slave trade, kind of being caught up in human trafficking and brought over illegally to here. And then you hear awful things about I've read some stuff about some things going on in Indonesia as well, and it was just a topic that I thought it's relevant, it's important, it's something that's harrowing and awful, and I think given how Trumpian the media currently has been over the past 18 months really.
True.
There are so many horrible things in the world that aren't given the attention that they're given, and I thought if I pair that with the cute little guys, there's probably going to be some sort of effect, hopefully, of people saying, "Wow, they're cute," and "Oh, isn't it so sad they've gone through these awful things?"
Yeah.
And I think it might work out quite well as Imagine if Despicable Me was about how the Minions were persecuted. I suppose that's a little bit what it's like. It's if you take the thing that you love and you see its hardship, maybe people will connect with that hardship a bit more.
So speaking again about the goobers there. So you said it was kind of like an opportunity for Tom to take the reins and have fun with that. Does Tom have a larger role in the world creation?
So the way it's working is I've got this big story that I've written that I wrote based on some conversations with him, and I'm a lot more story driven. So obviously I wrote the story, I've got all the threads going through it, I know the architecture, but the thing is I've written 200 pages, but I've written an outline for over 1,000. So I know where the story goes.
Yeah.
But what keeps happening is as we go through, first of all, Tom is designing all of the characters from scratch.
Okay.
I've given him some very vague guidelines about appearances and who these what the races are like, that he will then build them, and then from what he's building, I've started kind of writing some more stuff off the back of it. Because we're so early on, it's quite at the moment it's very, very me much saying, Tom, this is what we need now, follow this, this is what it's like in the scripts, this is next. And Tom kind of produces it as he goes, and he shows it to me as he goes along. But as we get deeper into it, Tom has great ideas. Tom has fantastic ideas about kind of coming up with characters, coming up with little elements that add embellishments to what I've written and created. And I'd never want to stifle that, because he's my friend and he's a really clever guy, and he comes up with some really interesting stuff. So whilst I know what I want the story to be, and I know the main threads and the main chunks of the story, there will definitely be a lot of input from Tom with regards to making it happen, how it kind of rolls out, how it works, but also how we fill in the world around it as well. It won't just be me. It will be a collaborative effort between Tom and I reckon.
That's very cool. Like a lot of indie comics you see is like the creator is the illustrator and the writer.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like about the indie comic world is for so long in comics, the creator has always been pretty much defined as the artist, as the writer. But having worked on films, having written novels, having worked on this comic, having worked on other bits and bobs, the more people that are involved in the creative process, the more I always find that the more complete and rounded the final product is. So while someone might take a lead in deciding how a story goes, or they might create an initial idea or kick something off, I think that the greatest things that humanity tends to achieve tend to be done together. And I'm not saying that this comic is going to be one of the greatest things that humanity ever achieved.
It could be. We don't know yet.
Who knows? We're only 4 pages in. We'll see what happens in 1,000. But I believe pretty much that I could do it. I could write it on my own. I could be an arsehole and I could be like, hey, no, do it my way. And I'd get all creative control. But I don't think it would be better. I don't think it would be representative of anything more than just me. And unless you're writing an autobiography, you can't just write for you. You can't, right. Unless you're writing a memoir, you can't just do something on the assumption that because you're happy about it, it's going to be right. And I think that the working together thing is going to be important the further we go along. Yeah.
That'll do it for our first creator spotlight. Thanks again to Josh Helmer for taking the time to talk to me about Infinity Pirates. And be sure to check him out on Instagram. And also thank you to C. Kavizi Beats for the music. Be sure to check out his SoundCloud as well. I've included some links there. And yeah, thank you for taking the time to listen. We'll see you next time.